Feederhouse, I want to start with the most important part is the reverser gearbox up here. This one is a multi-speed. It's a little bit different than the ones that we had more issues with. The variable speed shifts are the adjustable ones. Pretty much a standard machine until four years ago, I think they came out with the multi-speed. You want to make sure you get your shift gaps adjusted correctly. That maintains the proper speed with your bean head and your full range with your corn head. To do that, you want to slow it down all the way, bring your shifts all the way together and the belt as high up as you can get it. You want to stick an 1/8 inch Allen wrench in the back of it that'll fit right between the two shifts. That's where you want to maintain your gap. If it's too close together, you can pull up. There'll be just one pulley on that style combine. Pull that up a little bit, run it over a couple times, and check it again. You still can't get it tight enough there. There is a way to move the variable in the back also. The reverser up here, when we go to chopping corn heads, we want to run a synthetic oil in there. It's called an HD 460 oil. It does a much better job of dissipating heat, handling heat and stress loads. If you run an 80-90 with a chopping head, you're probably going to cook it out in about a week. If you pull that plug and check it, it's going to smell fried. You'll know for a fact what happened. You'll want to get that out of there as soon as you can. There are 2 grease circs on that variable shiv also. The book's going to tell you to grease it every 50 hours, and some of them, the newer ones, they'll say every 10 hours. I'm going to tell you I want you to grease one. If you put them at 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock, the 12 o'clock you want to grease every 4 hours. The 2 o'clock one you can grease once a day. That's going to give you a lot more fluctuation in there, and it big time adds on keeping the tension on that belt correctly. Otherwise you get some slippage. Slippage is what builds up all the heat in that gearbox and kicks that oil out, cooks that oil out. Can't stress enough to grease it as much as you can. When you're greasing it, use polyurea grease. It does a much better job with pressure and temperature. If you're trying to get away with using moly, the moly actually cooks and gets harder than rock and you end up chiseling it out. The rear part of this system also has 2 grease circs also. One of them's actually inside the shiv. You're going to have to roll the pulleys over to find the grease circ. You're going to want to grease that one every day. And there's one in the back also. It's usually overlooked because you really have to crawl in there to see it. Every year we got a couple of them that come in with just a pile of ground metal left in there because it hasn't been greased for a couple of years. Something we got to keep an eye on. Just try not to overlook it every time. I would still change it at least once a year. If you're running a high amount of acres, you might want to do it twice.
By high, in excess of 2,000?
Yeah, I would say 2,000. Also check it on a regular basis. That system gets hot. Could blow seal out at some point in time. You can usually smell that oil. When it starts going bad, it'll smell fried. Just burnt to the point you'll want to get away from it. Brings up the other point, and I almost did miss it. If you're going to change that oil over to the synthetic oil, make sure you pull the lines on the oil cooler. Most of the heavy duties all came with oil coolers, or the high capacities did. The standard ones, you can add it on. It's still an option. You can put it on there. Pull the lines off and drain that oil cooler. When you get everything else drained and the lines back on it, you're going to want to start it up and run it, and then check it, because you're going to have to fill it again. There's a pump in the bottom of that reverser that'll pump oil into that cooler. So you want to make sure we get that full before we run it.
That refers to almost all of them. Basically small to big, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Not just big chopping corn heads. You mean this would be a good thing for even those
Great thing to put in the smaller ones. It's a little bit more expensive. You can still get away with 80-90, but
It's all increased load.
it's a $4,600 gearbox, if I remember correctly. So that can,
It's expensive.
oil's only $4 to $8 a quart, something like that. Drives that is our header reel drive pump belt. It comes off the primary gearbox. Really important to keep a close eye on that. If you get some chunks out of that or some cracks in that one, replace it as soon as you can, because when that belt breaks, it 99% of the time comes up, it'll break the belt in the front, and usually it'll break the sensor for the feeder house position also. Then you put the belts back on, don't realize that your header control is not going to work for the rest of the day. Sometimes that can be a headache. The real drive pump is in the lower section of it here. There's also a grease circ on the back of that. That pump's always going regardless if you got a reel on with a bean head or just a corn head. So we want to make sure we grease that. That one can get overlooked also because it's kind of tucked back in there. So make sure you're taking a look at that.
For additional information regarding pre-harvest checks on your feeder house or our uptime service inspection programs, please contact your local Frontier Ag and Turf Service Department today. Thank you for viewing our Feeder House Essentials video. We hope you have a great day.